School safety is such a concern, legislators came back to the Capitol in the middle of their summer break to talk about what they can do. Denver is back on the list for immigration raids as the school district tells ICE agents, stay out. Governor Polis agrees to speak to an unfriendly crowd. Good idea or great idea? And the airport wants to sing us the song of its people. No, really. Listen.
Doors are closing.
That's next.
For everyone who thinks that Coloradans cannot agree about anything that our politicians do, I'll bet you this. Find me one person who does not think it's a good idea that legislators came back to the Capitol today to brainstorm about school safety. Arnusha Roy and parents were listening.
Did we come to the Capitol today?
Today was Henry's first trip to the Capitol. He sat quietly next to his mom as experts were talking about how to make classrooms he will eventually walk into safer.
I'm both a mom and a teacher.
Katie Grubb let Henry know that today was not going to be exciting.
I think
but they needed to be there.
when you think about the people and the stories that are behind all those numbers, it really starts to hit home, and you think about, you know, if it's my own kid or my own classroom.
The Colorado School Safety Committee spent a lot of time listening.
So we have a new mission and a new focus.
To a state mental health expert who said there is a shocking number of behavioral health providers who don't have the right suicide prevention training. A children's advocacy group said there's evidence schools are safer than they were in the 90s, but that bullying and school shootings are what kids worry about most when going to class. Law enforcement said a lot is being done right, but school safety protocols are inconsistent across districts.
There's a significant need for more resources in mental health to scale some of the work that's already being done that is evidence-based. And so I imagine we might, look for a sustainable source of funding.
The bipartisan committee absorbed all of this to help them craft up to 5 new bills for next year.
We've talked about what are the areas we think we can come to yes, and where there are things that are too polarizing on either side of the table, we're just going to set those aside because we don't have time for bickering when our children are dying.
So at the end of that meeting, which was around 4:30 this afternoon, the chair said that they might not achieve perfection, but they have to start the process. They thanked everyone, that includes students and parents, who came out to speak. And Kyle, they're encouraging more kids to give their feedback because they're going to continue this conversation through the rest of the year.
So they're in summer school of sorts.
Yeah, basically.
To kind of prepare these bills with the hopes that they can drop them next legislative session, and then boom, 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 they just come together.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that it's going to actually pass, right? I mean, like any bill, it's going to be up for debate, depends on who's in office. They're just hoping that they're going to present the best options that will have the best chances of making it through.
All right, Nusha, thank you. When it comes to the STEM school Highlands Ranch shooting, the one that prompted legislative action at the Capitol today, we've gotten into the situation where there's a bit of a lull in terms of the public movement in the criminal case. A number of you have asked us about it. There's an 18-year-old suspect who's going to be in court in September, and then there's a 16-year-old suspect being charged as an adult in the case, and that suspect will be back in court come November.
Our next question comes from a viewer named Jan, wondering about the status of the case against the man accused of causing the crash on I-70 that killed 4 people. Jan mentioned she didn't think she'd heard anything about him since he had been released on bond in May.
So, Jen, actually, the suspect, Rohel Aguilera Medeiros, was in court this morning, where a judge found probable cause for that case to go to trial. Aguilera Medeiros is the truck driver accused of causing that crash on I-70 near Denver West, the crash that killed 4 men in April. His defense attorney argues that the brakes failed on the semi as he was coming down the hill. Now, that defense attorney, the guy you see at his side, Rob Corey, is having some legal trouble of his own. He was arrested twice in a month, in one case accused of threatening people with a sword. So we were curious whether the attorney's trouble could delay this very prominent crash case, or whether it might be cause for it to be thrown out on appeal. Our legal analyst, Scott Robinson, says the state Supreme Court's disciplinary council could step in if it feels the need.
One of the things that could happen, but it only could happen, is that they could actually impose an emergency suspension order for fear that problems with his own cases might affect Corey's representation of his clients.
We also directly asked the defense attorney, Rob Corey, whether he feels that his ongoing legal troubles are going to impact this case.
I think everybody in this room has probably had personal challenges in our lives, right? And when we have personal challenges, it doesn't prevent us from waking up and doing our jobs. So it doesn't affect me, other than it gives me a little more sympathy for my brother here, because I can even more empathize with what he is going through.
Aguilera Medeiros has told us in the past he has no plans to switch lawyers. Another case that we consistently get requests from you to update is the prosecution of the 2 security guards charged with drug trafficking for their load of hemp, or was it marijuana? The guy on the left there is from Colorado. So they thought that they were transporting hemp through Oklahoma on the way here to Colorado. Prosecutors say, nope, it was illegal cannabis. Those guys will be in court next month. The immigration raids ordered by the president that were postponed 3 weeks ago are going to happen this coming weekend. That's according to NBC News, which says that Denver could be one of the targets. The talk is mass raids across the country targeting roughly 2,000 families that already have deportation orders. NBC is saying that 2 of the cities on a previously announced list that includes Denver could change. ICE agents are not talking about whether Denver is one of the targets. They say it's a safety issue for their staff. But new reports of these raids have a number of local politicians speaking out against them, and Denver Public Schools releasing a statement reminding ICE that schools are sensitive places in which agents typically do not enter. Governor Jared Polis is going to walk into the lion's den. It is not quite Daniel 6, but it certainly involves a crowd that knows that part of the Bible. Polis tomorrow will become the first elected Democrat to address the Western Conservative Summit. I spoke with 3 conservatives today with differing political philosophies within conservatism, but they shared one view of Governor Polis's decision to speak.
I think that's a great idea. Dialogue is always good. Dialogue meaning two. I hope it's a two-way conversation. Certainly we're going to want to hear what he has to say. What would he say to that conservative gathering? But also I hope he sticks around for some of the other talks and starts to immerse himself a little more in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness at the same time.
This is a show of strength from a Democratic governor who thinks that he can walk into a conservative bastion in Colorado. So he must be feeling pretty good about where he is with Coloradans right now.
Realizing that he made a campaign promise to be the governor of all Coloradans means showing up in sometimes uncomfortable rooms, and good for him.
Tomorrow, that same crew is going to assess the state of conservative politics in our state today. I mean, we know that the Republican Party took a real beating last year, but those 3 make the case for how it might bounce back or find some wins. We also talk specifically about whether trying to recall Governor Polis is a smart idea for Republicans. If you want to watch the entire thing early, you can find it on the next YouTube channel. Denver's Parks and Rec Department says it is done rounding up and killing geese this year because they're not legally allowed to round up and kill any more geese. The permit from U.S. Fish and Wildlife had a statewide cap of 2,000 geese, and they finished them off. The city plans to reevaluate its plan next year. All right, let's test your knowledge of Colorado by playing What Do You Say? Tonight we're talking about the place name of a creek and a basin that's out west of Meeker, starts with a P. You see it there. Linda, Tim, Turing, and Mark all wrote into Next wanting help pronouncing this one. So we got in touch with a woman whose grandparents were some of the original settlers. We asked her, what do you say?
It's called Piance Creek, and it stands for tall grass by the Utes. That's what Piance Creek means. It was settled by the miners coming out of Leadville and Aspen. They got done mining and they just started looking for a place to live.
The Piance Basin stretches through a big portion of western Colorado. It's been a hot spot for oil and gas development for decades now. Don't write into me about the Creek thing. I'm not interested. All right, what other place names have you always wondered how we should pronounce? Email suggestions to next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext.
A granddaughter planned all the honors for her grandfather's funeral.
Unfortunately, for the military rites, it was double booked, and we just found out last minute.
Now she's scrambling to make sure that he gets the honors he deserved. It's a good thing they're in Colorado.
There's so many people who are volunteering to help that never even knew my grandfather.
And a sculptor in Fraser is a big fan of Jack Kerouac. I mean, life-size big.
I spent enough time on him, it's like he's one of my kids.
But now he doesn't know where to put it. That's next.
Can you basically recite the airport's train messages and the alerts word for word? You are delaying the departure of this train. A Coloradan has decided to give those familiar words a bit of a remix with some other sounds of the airport.
Doors are closing. Hold on. Please keep it clear. Please.
Steve Theodore used Alan Roach's voice on that one, the booming bass, but he's thinking he could drop in a little Kim Christensen over that, maybe make a little duet. He's been making remixes since middle school. He did the airport one as a joke. He did not expect what actually happened, which is that it got kind of internet famous this week.
I honestly didn't expect much out of it, man. I thought it was just going to be, cool, this is pretty funny. And then all of a sudden I started getting these rewards on Reddit for the post and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, this resonated more than I thought it would.
And we'll give it to DIA. Unlike some government agencies around here, DIA can take a joke. They posted the remix on Twitter and asked if it should be their theme song. It is a sign that next is for Colorado. It probably would not fly in Michigan, at least not on Mackinac Island. Our Steve Steger was vacationing there recently and spotted this sign. Gentlemen, after 6 p.m. must be attired in a coat and tie. No, thank you. Send your signs to next@9news.com or use that hashtag #HeyNext.
Warmest day of the year, close to 100 degrees in Denver, and now we've got a little smoke and haze out there. That brush fire out near DIA also adding to kind of the pollution, and the ozone alert issued for the metro area may be reinstated again tomorrow. The high of 96 is above average, but not quite in record territory, although we may head there with warm desert air coming in from the southwest and the storm track to the north of us. We will see temperatures continue in the 90s for the next few days. We do have enough moisture coming in for a couple of gusty storms along the foothills, but for rain, too much of a good thing as we monitor Tropical Storm Barry off the coast of New Orleans, 90 miles off the coast of the mouth of the Mississippi, and forecast to move inland with heavy flooding rain and a big storm surge there. For us, our moisture is very limited around here tonight. We have partly cloudy skies, a dry evening, another warm, dry day tomorrow with temperatures back in the 90s, and a slightly better chance of thunderstorms heading into Saturday. Mid-60s tonight, that's where we start off on Friday morning, highs back in the low 90s. About a 20% chance we'll see rain from storms Saturday, isolated Sunday and Monday, and we continue with that 90-degree streak right into the middle of next week. A lot of people sneezing. Right now, trees remain high with weeds and grass at moderate, Kyle.
Thank you, Kathy. Hey, we just got a note in that the sale of the Park Hill Golf Course in Denver is now complete. The sale of that golf course to an investment group, developers. We've been talking about this on air for months now and just got this note that Clayton Early Learning Center, you know, they're the big school, that old complex of buildings on the west side of Colorado Boulevard. They have sold the old golf course on the east side of Colorado Boulevard to Westside Investment Group for $24 million, 155 acres. Parks advocates would like to see that become Denver's next great park. It's almost the size of Wash Park. Of course, something tells me the investment group is hoping for something else to happen. They had everything planned to honor Grandpa the way that he would have wanted. But a last-minute mix-up now has a family scrambling to figure out a funeral service for a World War II vet. Here's Noel Brennan.
Heather Storer is handling this remarkably well.
It has been a busy day.
Her boss is away. She's in charge running an office,
getting all of our finances in order, payroll,
and planning a funeral.
He did pass on Monday.
World War II veteran Sergeant Charles Grando.
But here's a good one.
For Grandpa Charlie to Heather.
His army picture.
The kid with the crooked hat.
He is a kid, 17.
Grew up to make his granddaughter laugh.
Quite a bit.
His family had plans to bury him in Pueblo with full military honors.
And we still just want our grandfather to be honored.
But the funeral home double booked Charlie's service.
And we just found out last minute.
No one to play taps, fold the flag, or offer a rifle salute.
It's a huge honor.
Until family posted on Facebook and Nextdoor, and a community answered.
There's so many people who are volunteering to help that never even knew my grandfather.
All honors are taken care of, except for one.
We're just hoping that somebody can at least come out and do the gun salute for him.
Heather would love to keep a shell casing and share a token of her grandpa's service with her kids.
Grandpa was proud to be in the Army, and he was proud of of what he did.
He served, raised a family, and died at 92.
You can see the love and the twinkle in his eye.
He deserves to be honored before a granddaughter
I am so proud of him.
says goodbye.
So proud of him.
For Next, I'm Noel Brennan.
They're making progress on this. Family says they found a bagpiper to pipe taps. They have some service members who are going to come and volunteer to fold the American flag. They just need to figure out that rifle salute before Charlie's service on Saturday.
We've learned you can't get everyone to like you. It's not a new lesson.
Jack was a very controversial person. Not many people wanted to do him for that reason, but that was the very reason I decided to do him.
But that's making it hard for a sculptor in Fraser to find a home for his masterpiece. That's next.
Jack Kerouac was a controversial figure. On the Road, his novel about a road trip fueled by drugs, alcohol, and jazz. Let's just say it wasn't for everyone. That trip took Jack through Denver. This story takes us to Grand County, where an artist feels drawn to the man that some love to hate.
My gosh, doesn't that guy have a job? Is this what he does? My name is Howard Neville, and I've been called worse, but I'm an artist. There's the miniature. I'm a sculptor, a painter. These are all bronzes that I've done. One was Dwight Eisenhower, and one was Glenn Miller. Jack Kerouac is my latest bronze sculpture. Just back up straight. Jack was a very controversial person. Not many people wanted to do him for that reason, but that was the very reason I decided to do him. Well, he'd passed through Denver a lot. He actually owned a home in Denver for a short period of time. But yeah, he spent a lot of time on Highway 40. There's a lot of time he spent in Denver, yes. I mean, whether it was in Lakewood for the time he bought that house, or whether he was just passing through. The man was all over the place when he was writing. I sculpted this for me, not knowing if I was going to get done, not knowing where he was going to go if I did get done. I spent enough time on him. It's like he's one of my kids. It's an emotional thing, and you're very proud. And that's kind of pretty much how I feel about Jack.
Neville would love to see his sculpture stay in Colorado. There's been some interest. It's from people on the coast. He'd love for its home to be here. This Throwback Thursday, we are kicking it back a century to see a popular attraction that one town wants to resurrect. And of all of the cringeworthy mispronunciations that I have dropped on this program, I think I had my worst one tonight. If I remain employed through the commercial break, we'll correct it next. It's Throwback Thursday, back to 1888. Hot Springs Pool in Glenwood Springs first opened with the big fountain, which was removed decades ago. Now the resort's building a new fountain modeled after the old one, opened by the end of the month. How in the world did I mispronounce Mackinac Island? Must have been thinking about the breaking news and I spaced. Anyway, thank you to Mary Jane, Tanya, Jeff, Lynn, DJ, Mary, Bob, Jeff, Jacob, Eden, and Beth for having my back on that correction. See you next time.